We have kindled this light 1,000 times before, in this place made sacred by our coming together, and we kindle it now, just as we will for years and years to come, as a sign of our community and our commitment and our care for each other. This is a fire that has been sacrificed for by those who came before us. It is a fire worth kindling again and again and again, even when the world threatens to put it out. We kindle this light for the brave ones who went before us, for Ruth, for all the civil servants who, like her, gave us this fire which we are called to tend. We light this chalice for the light of hope, for the fire of commitment, for the warmth of community.
Good morning and welcome to River Road Unitarian Universalist Congregation. I'm Reverend Amanda Weatherspoon, your Associate Minister. This is a place of community, spirit, and service, where we invite the fullness of who each of us are. Good morning to all of you watching in the live Zoom party. Yes, this morning we are live from the building. And although some of us are here in the building with this amazing technology and this ability to live stream to you, we know that our community is so much more than the building. It is the love that we create with one another time and time again as we choose each other over and over again. It is a love that even in these times, when hope is so hard to find, when it's so hard to hold on to something that feels true, when it's hard to feel a sense of normal and to feel steadiness in this world, we rest in a love that makes us free, a love that guides us, a love that hovers over us, a love that carries us. And in that spirit of love, come, let us worship together.
May I remember in this tender moment that love is my guide always, shepherding me toward ways of openness and compassion. I have what I need, really, with love at my side, above me, below me, in front of me, behind me, inside every cell of me. love infused everywhere. Just when the weight of the world I inhabit threatens to drop me in place and press my hope down into the ground beneath me, love invites me to rest for a gentle while and leads the center of my soul to the quiet, still, restoring waters nearby that somehow I had not noticed. And so love quietly sets me once again on its tender and demanding path. Even when the walls close around me and the cries of death echo through untold corners, gripping my heart with fear and sadness, I know that all will be well. That I will be well when love whispers near to me, glints at the corner of my eye, rests with gentle and persistent invitation upon my shoulders. Yes, love blesses me, even as the sources and symbols of my pain look on. Love blesses me from its infinite well, and I turn and notice that goodness and kindness and grace follow me everywhere, everywhere I go. I live in a house of love, love that will not let me go. I live in a house of love and always will.
There are words whose meaning goes deeper than the surface. There are intonations that call us back into the long history of people who have been both afraid and courageous before us. There are words that call us forward, to call to mind all those who will depend on the bravery we muster today for the hope and courage they will carry into the days that are given to them. Each of us, individuals and families, kids and adults, we are called to work now to find ways to structure our lives around resilience, ways to build meaningful patterns of hope and of purpose that undergird our actions, not yesterday, not tomorrow, but today. To reflect more on what it means to practice living our values right now as Unitarian Universalists, we go to our Time for All Ages from our religious educator for children, Chris McCann.
Good morning. I'm Chris McCann, your religious educator for children. I wonder how many of you practice something, a sport, music of some kind, a creative art? Do you practice Unitarian Universalism? And why do you practice? I think of my daughter practicing for hours in the pool for races that typically lasted less than a minute. I think of myself practicing the piano for hours to perform a 3-minute recital. Why? Why all of these hours for such short moments of performance? We've all heard that practice makes perfect, but we know that it typically doesn't. I like to think that practice makes familiar, and that feels far richer than perfect. When we practice, we become familiar with the ways our bodies move in the water, the way our fingers touch the piano keys, the feeling of a pen or a paintbrush as it touches paper. The word familiar shares a root with family, and the original meaning of the word familiar was of or pertaining to family. I love the idea that practice makes our actions like family, that we become that intimate with whatever it is we practice. So when it's time to live into what we practice, it's like family. You may have noticed a new thing on our River Road Facebook page. daily chalice lightings, songs, and rituals, all labeled "Come to Practice." These are small invitations to engage in our Unitarian Universalism in our day-to-day lives. Ways to stop for a minute, ground ourselves in something deeper than whatever chaos is happening in the world around us. During a time that feels like the entire world is happening to us, engaging in these small daily rituals and practices give us a taste of something intentional, something chosen. These small rituals can root us in place and connect us to something deeper, even if only for a moment. Dr. Maya Angelou once said, "I'm grateful to be a practicing Christian. I'm always amazed when people say, 'I'm a Christian.' I think, already? It's an ongoing process. You know, you keep trying and blowing it and trying and blowing it. What if we all thought of our faith in this way? What if it was more than I am a Unitarian Universalist, as if that could ever be a done deal? What if we thought about Unitarian Universalism as a practice to cultivate and make family of our highest ideals? When we come together to practice Unitarian Universalism, when we do the familiar rituals of worship, attending small groups or religious education classes, gathering on a corner at a vigil for Black lives, we make our values familiar to ourselves so that we can live into them wherever we may be. So I invite you to engage in our rituals of the day, to make family of all the ways we might strive to live our highest good. I invite you to try and blow it and try again. I invite you to come to practice.
In the life of our congregation, there are so very many ways that we practice the values that undergird our tradition. All of the things that we do together in beloved community point toward how it is we are called to be together, to shape how we can be together in the world, in this nation, and here in our congregation. There are a few ways to practice our living tradition I want to lift up for you today. Firstly, that just this week alone, you can find out more about getting involved in our ongoing Get Out the Vote efforts. It could not be more important. Now is the time. This week also, you can reserve your spot for our live-streamed College Access fundraiser on Saturday, September 26th, that helps make the dream of higher education a reality for scholars who are ready to change the world. You can save the date on your calendar also right now for the 28th of October, when we'll live stream our annual Partner Fest in celebration of our collaborations with Unitarians and Universalists around the world. We can do so much if we choose to practice this tradition together in community. And we can hold so much if we choose to hold it together. So many joys and sorrows, so much heartbreak, and so much hope. As you at home consider lighting your own candle for those joys and sorrows that rest in the sanctuary of your heart, I lift a few up before our entire gathered community. We honor this week Rosh Hashanah, the Jewish New Year, bidding goodbye to an especially painful 5780 in the ancient calendar. As my colleague Kate Landis has put it, together let us make 5781 the year of health, of clear thinking, of love across human-made borders. May your new year indeed be sweet, and may you be remembered in the book of life. We celebrate with Lynn Dunham and her husband Victor the birth of their granddaughter, Bridget Elizabeth Marie Slack. September 11th, Bridget Elizabeth came into the world to Lynn's daughter Stephanie and her husband James in Rockville. All are healthy, all are well. Marty Brown grieves the death of her mother last Tuesday. In July, she had a mini stroke which caused her to fall in the parking lot of her retirement home. Marty and her brother were able to be there with her through the last days of the traumatic brain injury that eventually claimed her life. Marty shares that it was a gift to be there in the last days of her life. Along with Dolores Miller, our former religious educator here at River Road, we mourn the passing of her mother, Leona Miller, 10 days after testing positive for COVID-19. She was a teacher and a nurturer her whole life long, inspiring others to teach and to nurture the same. We continue to hold the well-being of all our families and friends in the path of fire and storm this week, even as the fires still rage and the winds still blow. And we grieve the passing of a great one among us. Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg, who made a way for so many who would follow her, who stood on the ramparts of freedom and held the doors open for us as long as she could. We are afraid. Yes, surely so many of us are afraid for what this loss means to our families, our marriages, our very lives, our nation. And yet we also know that the work which lies ahead is not her work, but our work to do. As Mother Jones so perfectly put it, pray for the dead, but fight like hell for the living. For the race that has yet to be run, for the work that lies ahead, we will need all of our resilience. And so in that spirit, won't you take a good seat in what I surely hope is a comfortable chair, and a deep breath for words of prayer and stillness in the midst of the storm. Spirit of life and source of love, we gather together in this season of heartbreak, knowing that there are none but us to stand upon the ramparts of this democracy, knowing that there are none but us to uphold the wisdom of the ages and to fight the fights which are given in this our time. Spirit of life and source of love, it is something to follow in the footsteps of giants. It is another to become the fullness of our own potential so that we might be spoken of in the history books as the people who showed up, the people who persisted, the people who were brave, the people who loved each other through it all. We are held by love and goaded by love into greater things than perhaps we ever could have imagined before. We are held by love and we are goaded by love into being the best, most courageous versions of ourselves, for we are the ones we have been waiting for. We are the ones equipped for the work ahead. Let us hold one another. Let us grieve, and let us fight like hell to build heaven right here on earth. Amen, and blessed be.
Please join me in singing Spirit of Life. Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion.
Giving is a spiritual practice, and here at River Road, generosity runs so deep. Each month, we have the opportunity and the joy to extend our offering to a community organization whose values aligns with ours. For the month of September, that is the College Access Fund. This comes from us from the Racial Justice Task Force Educational Access Pathway. Now more than ever, it is vital to give to building the beloved community of strong minds and fierce, fierce hearts. This is a fund that supports the education and the access and the giving to so many in our community. Please visit our social justice giving page for more information on the College Access Fund and different ways to give to the College Access Fund, including to go to the College Access fundraiser this coming Saturday. There are many ways to give here at River Road. First of all, you can text to give. The text to give number is 73256. Once more, that's 73256 plus RRUUC and the amount. You should be able to find that number in the live chat feed. You can also go to our website at rruuc.org/giving and go to the Social Justice Giving page and click on the College Access Fund link. Be on the lookout for more ways to support the College Access Fund throughout the month of September, including many beautiful videos from the College Access Fund itself and past recipients and those who give their time and energy to this effort. However you give, whenever you give, and wherever you give, know that what you give builds the beloved community brick by brick, heart by heart, and mind by mind. As the music plays, please give as you are willing and able.
Hello, I'm Beth Irakora, religious educator for youth. Through my work in UU Wellspring, I know that many of you are regular meditators. I also hear from many people that they have trouble meditating or engaging in any kind of spiritual practice. I've discovered that there are many, many, many ways to meditate or to engage in a ritual or spiritual practice that will help to ground you. That grounding can make it just a little easier to move through this chaotic world. Now, I'm sure some of you are thinking, I just can't do anything else. No more. I don't want to do any more things. And I'm here to tell you, you don't have to. I'm inviting you to do some ritual spotting in your daily life. Notice what you're already doing regularly that you can bring some mindfulness or attention to. And for now, just notice. Then with a little infusion of intention, you can turn them into grounding spiritual practices. This summer, I read the book, The Power of Ritual, Turning Everyday Activities into Soulful Practices by Casper ter Kuile. Ter Kuile is a Harvard Divinity grad, atheist, public theologian, and co-host of the popular podcast Harry Potter and the Sacred Text. His book is a very real-world take on spiritual practices and rituals in our very real lives. I'm even using his book as a jumping-off point for our new coming-of-age class this year. This passage is his take on turning a routine into a ritual or spiritual practice. Words like spiritual practices and rituals conjure up monks in dimly lit temples or extremely difficult yoga poses. And they can be those things. But what I mean follows wisdom given to me by activist and UU minister Kathleen McTeague, who looks for three things in any practice or ritual: intention, attention, and repetition. So though you may take the dog out for a walk numerous times a day, ticking off the repetition component, it isn't a ritual practice if you're also on the phone because you're not really paying attention to your pup or the walk that you're on. It's simply a habit. Or you may read every night before bedtime, but not really bring any specific intention to it. Again, that doesn't meet our description of a ritual or practice. However, I've come to believe that just about anything can become a spiritual practice. Gardening, painting, singing, snuggling, sitting. The world is full of these rituals. Just look at the pregame handshake at Cleveland Cavaliers basketball game. We just need to be clear about our intention. What are we inviting into this moment? Bring it to our attention, coming back to being present in this moment, and make space for repetition, coming back to this practice time and time again. In this way, rituals make the invisible connections that make our lives meaningful visible. If you're like me, you'll try lots of different things that don't quite vibe or fall away after a couple of tries. That's absolutely fine. If after some time you find one or two things that start to feel comfortably and consistently like they're your practices, then that's when you've got a winner. So blessings on your ritual spotting explorations.
From a high tower, perched like a spindled wand above the bustling city, a call to prayer rings out. Allahu Akbar, the voice calls. God is most great. 4 times, ringing out as the streets below that fabled minaret pause. Life pauses. When the call to prayer rings out, the hurried people rushing from one thing to the next just stop. Tyrants and children, wise grandmothers and glittering celebrities, they all stop. Wherever it is, they stop what they are doing in that moment. They lay out their prayer rugs and put their heads to the ground in humble supplication to a God whose name cannot be captured in any human tongue. It seems like a fairy tale, a world where everything magically stops and people change in an instant, where one moment was normal, one moment the next crowded with meaning. But this ritual, it is everywhere. It is around the world. It is a call that rings out not just for the clerics and the mullahs and the change makers and the wisest ones, but for everyone. Stop what you are doing, the call to prayer says. Stop what you are doing right now and pay attention to what it all means. Pay attention to however it is you are living. Stop what you are doing and pay attention now to what it points toward and why it matters. 5 times a day. At moments roughly coinciding with periods of rest and refreshment, with mealtime, the people turned to face a holy city in the sure knowledge that whatever it was that they were busy with, no matter how important it may have been, it all points towards something greater. It all matters in the end. The call to prayer 5 times daily in the Muslim world is a toolkit for resilience. It is the drum beat beneath the living of each day. To most non-Muslims, it is the striking uniformity of this practice that makes daily Muslim prayer so poetic and powerful, and perhaps sometimes so unsettling. A day set to a drum beat is not something that many of us are accustomed to. 24 hours carved up into 5 non-negotiable commitments. It is a way not just of demonstrating faith, but of ordering life. A life lived with a layer of intention over top of everything, every day, all the time. Even when you don't believe, even when belief is the furthest thing from your mind, the practice, the drumbeat of the practice, the repetition, the attention, the intention, it is still there, holding life together, giving structure to the seeming chaos, marking time so that we know time is actually passing, and perhaps blessing it before it slips away. Religious communities and faith leaders across the ages, they have practiced these kinds of ritualistic orderings of time. They have done this over ages and over cultures and over faiths, what it means to live a well-ordered day. From the earliest monastic communities of Benedictine Christianity to the ever-renewing cycle of the Jewish high holidays. This way of living inside a ritual system that creates and calls out meaning, it has stood we human beings in good stead for most of our existence. We mark what is significant by the actions we choose to make significant day after day, and the ways in which we are willing to repeat them over and over again to endow them always with richer meaning. This is true in both secular and in sacred ways. This is true in lives that span faiths and ages. There is perhaps, in fact, no more profoundly ritualistic life to be found in the annals of history than that of the Honorable Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. A well-ordered life indeed. A woman whose daily routine was and is the stuff of legend in the annals of Supreme Court history. Every day, that woman rose at the exact same time. Every day, she followed the same exercise program that included 20 push-ups with a pause for a few breaths in between every day. She disciplined herself to work, to sleep, though little, and to make space for the music she loved and the amazing food that other people cooked and the people whose company made her laugh. She did these things, each in turn and each right on time and each in their place. She did these things, a steady, rhythmic life, because all of it, parenting, work, marriage, music, all of it was crammed full with meaning and purpose and intention. In the autobiographical advice she left behind for the rest of us, Justice Ginsburg said that it was actually the ritualistic and consuming demands of parenthood that made her success possible, especially in her earliest days of law school. She would work, she said, every day until 4 on the dot. Like clockwork, she would turn it off and turn herself fully toward the holy land of her child and her child's needs. She would turn herself fully to the practice of reading Winnie the Pooh to her daughter Jane, playing with her, feeding her, attending to the small and large rituals of parenting until that little girl was safe and asleep, and only then, refreshed by those steady and meaningful practices of her life as a parent, did she turn in another direction, pick up the books, and plow on into the work that would change the world. Every act pointed toward something larger than itself, toward the well-being of that child, toward the day when she would eventually take her place at the bar, and ultimately toward the well-being of this nation she loved and the uplifting of each of us within it, so long held at the margins. The structure of her days held within it a deep commitment, a framework for her vision of a life well lived and all that such a life could accomplish. In our reading this morning, Casper ter Kuile says that ritual, it is often understood as the domain of religious people in dimly lit temples, up and above it all doing difficult yoga poses. And yet we find that there are deep and powerful rituals happening all around us. In the courtrooms and the classrooms, in the cafeterias and the kitchens in which we actually dwell, deep and powerful rituals happening right here through the Zoom screen through which you are watching today, because life is not lived in dimly lit monasteries and temples atop hillsides. Not for me, not for you, not for any of us who are given the work of fighting the good fight that is right here before us. Like Justice Ginsburg, we have to make our way in the middle of it all. Not separate and apart from daily life, but inundated by it, carving out meaning not through some sacred withdrawal from this world and its demands, but through an engaged and unceasing participation in the dailiness of life and the meaning endowed therein. Beth reminded us today in our reading that the difference between a habit and a ritual is a matter largely of intention, attention, and repetition. A habit is something you just do without ascribing any particular meaning to it. It is something you do without even thinking of it. It is a drumbeat that goes unheard in the background of your life. A ritual, however, is a habit that stops you in your tracks. It is not a background happenstance, but an action overlaid with purposefulness that points toward something. It has meaning because you give it meaning, because you ascribe meaning to your actions, because you will not rest until that purpose is revealed. Imagine your coffee in the morning. Scoop, grind, pour, sugar, sip, Imagine that habit flying right by underneath the flow of your day. Now imagine it again. The same habit. Scoop, grind, pour, sugar, sip, and say thank you for this day, for this new beginning, for this chance to start again, to fight again for something you believe in, even just the pause to notice the taste of that morning coffee instead of hurrying right past it, even that is a ritual blessing. To be grateful for a heartbeat of your ever-flowing, ever-rushing life. Habit becomes ritual when we transform it by intention and attention. Habit. The head hits the pillow, the book on the side table, the lamp clicking off, the exhausted fall towards sleep. Ritual, head hits the pillow, book on side table, lamp clicking off. I dedicate it all. All the effort of this day, all the wonders and loneliness of these 12 hours, to the safety and fulfillment of the ones I love, to the ultimate realization of something I value. To another day when the injustice of this world does not go unanswered by my voice. Another day where something beautiful did not slip by unnoticed. Head hits pillow, book on side table, lamp clicks off. It's all the same, repetition the same, the action the same, but the attention and the intention turns it into a practice that orders time just as surely as the bells of an ancient cathedral. And yet it can be so hard to wrap our heads around time as it slips right by, especially now, when so many of the habits that used to hold us down to earth and the rituals that used to give us meaning have been stripped away. Even the morning commute, the wave goodbye at the school bus window, the physical presence of each other on Sunday morning. All of those rituals that structured life are unavailable to us or are fundamentally different than the way they used to be. The things we used to rely on are gone. Even the people we thought would hold the barricades are no longer here to do the heavy lifting. There is only us. There is no one else who will make meaning of these days, and so we are called to transform our habits into practice, not because we have to, but because we choose to, because grounding ourselves in practice might equip us to be more resilient when the world is most broken and we need our courage in order to act. Here at River Road, we here on your staff, we've been thinking a lot lately about what we really need from each other and from our congregation in these days. What do families need? What do kids need, especially when the prospect of another Zoom call makes your eyes water and your heart hurt? What do we need? And what we've realized is that we do not really need an invitation to do more stuff. What we need is an invitation to transform what we are already doing through acts of deep attention and intention. What we need is to mark the significance of these fraught and painful days, even as they stream right through our fingertips. And so this fall, we're launching a new program. As Chris described just a moment ago, Come to Practice, it's called. And each and every one of you can come to practice, finding a song, a ritual, and a chalice lighting posted daily on our Facebook page. These songs and rituals and chalice lightings, they work for individuals or for families. They are joyful and poignant and silly. And they're available to all of us as touchstones throughout the day, as punctuation marks in the otherwise undifferentiated flow of time. Maybe you light your own chalice every morning. Maybe you listen to the day's song and imagine the children from the RE class you taught 25 years ago listening to it along with you, and the children who are learning and growing today. Maybe you just pause a moment and know that even that simple pause is a kind of practice being present to your life. As part of this invitation to come to practice, we'll shortly be inviting you to consider joining an online small group with discussion topics matched to our monthly spiritual themes, so that a life of Unitarian Universalist practice might include a daily touchstone of ritual, a weekly touchstone of worship, a monthly touchstone of small group depth and conversation. It may not be a darkened temple on top of some mountain, but it is a rhythm that nonetheless has the power to bless. And it happens right where we are, right here, where the work is, where the hope is, where it is all happening if we show up for the fight. The call rings out over the wide city streets. The call rings out for the people to come to practice. It doesn't ring out for just a few, for just the wisest and most with it among us. It doesn't ring out only for the ones we thought would save us from ourselves. It rings out across the whole city, across all the spaces between us. Come to practice, says the call, and let that practice bless and ground you, for the world needs you strong and steady right now. Feel the drum beat that persists beneath the chaos of our lives. Bring attention and intention to every day, and may the meaning we make be enough for all the work that lies ahead. May it be so, and amen. This is the first time I've worn dress shoes in 6 months, the first time I've stood in this pulpit since last we were here together. It takes love and intention and attention to bring this service to you live today. I want to thank our tech team, Marcia and Dave Leonard, Jeff and Patrina Hollingsworth, all of you who make it possible to bless each other across the distance. We are each other's people, now as much as ever. And now, may the truth that makes us free, the love that casts out fear, and the hope that never dies guide us and those we love and those we do not love forward together till the day spring breaks and the shadows flee away. Amen.